Hello guys, my name is Andrew, and this video is devoted to the comparison Moog Mother-32 and Behringer Crave. I've been using the both synths for a couple of months. I've made patches and sequences for Behringer Crave, I've made patches for Moog Mother-32, so I've spent lots of time with both of them and faced their differences on practice. And today I'm gonna share with you the list of these differences. You may already find some videos with this comparison, but they're mostly about the sound. So in my video I'm not gonna compare these two synths in terms of sound. If you are interested about the sound, you may watch the video by Starsky K. I guess he is one of the best who makes such kind of comparisons. My review is about the features and specifications these two synths have. So the comparison is gonna be in terms of functionality, and it's gonna be quite objective. If one synth has something and another doesn't have it, it's clear that it's advantage of one of them and the disadvantage of the other one. As I mentioned previously, I'm not going to compare these units in terms of sound, but let me say a couple of words about the sound. In general, I like both of them. To my taste, they are equally good. Yes, they have differences in oscillator sound, maybe filter sound, noise, but the differences are quite tiny. It's not like a day and night. And I can't say that one of them sounds great and the other one is disgusting. No, they're equally good. Which one sounds better? It's up to you, it's up to your taste. But I can't choose which of them is the best for me in terms of sound. So let's begin. The first difference is the following. Moog Mother-32 has only Midi in, and Behringer Crave has Midi in and Midi out and through. And this is very crucial difference in my taste. What I mean, if you have several devices, synths, drum machines, samplers that share, for example, clock, tempo information, you can send tempo to Mother-32, but then you can't share this clock to other devices. Usually, if we use Midi, we do it with Midi through. If I have Crave, I send clock to Midi in, then run some sequence, and then share the same tempo to some other device, maybe a drum machine. Moog Mother-32 can't do this. It can only receive tempo via Midi in. Yes, it has a sine output, and you can send clock with this CV output. But I don't like this fact, because I like using a sine as a part of synthesis. I may use it for mod wheel, I may use it for velocity or some step modifiers, so I would prefer leave it for sound design, not for sending clock. So this Midi out and through is a strong point of Behringer Crave. Moreover, using this Midi out and through, you can connect 2, 3 or more units at the same time and use them as a polychain. For example, you have 3 Craves, you can connect them together with this Midi through and use them as a 3-voice analog synthesizer when they're all together. And again, Mother-32 can't do this. Another difference in terms of connection is that Crave has a USB port. And again, this gives us lots of opportunities. First of all, you may use this USB as a regular medium. You may send or receive tempo from your DAW, you may send or receive notes, and it's very convenient, especially if you don't have an audio interface with MIDI in or out. The next advantage of having a USB port is the following. Most or maybe all Behringer synthesizers can be controlled via a special application. It's called SynthTool. Let's connect it and I will show you what this application can do. So here's the application. Let's get started. We have several pages with dedicated settings. First of all, it's general things like clock source, pitch bend semitones and others. Very useful as sine output. On Moog Mother-32 it's here, on Crave it's here. So if you use this application, it's very easy and quick to assign the parameters to this assign output. And if you don't have this application, you should do these changes via the front panel. So you should remember and push and hold several buttons to enter the settings menu, then choose pages, settings and so on and so forth. It's not very user-friendly. Actually, it's not quite easy to remember all these combinations of buttons and then numbers. And if you don't use it quite often, you will definitely forget it. So you always should refer to the manual to refresh in your mind these combinations, buttons and so on and so forth. While using this application, you don't have to remember all the things. You just see this user interface and choose what you need. In this application, what you can do next, it has a sequencer. So you may create a sequence from scratch with all these modifiers like gate length, ratchet, glides and so on. Then you can send this sequence to the synth and save it there. Also, you can load the sequences from the synth, for example, like here. And then leave a copy on your computer. You can make backup files with this export button. And this is very, very convenient. This gives us an opportunity to save the sequences outside Crave. For example, you don't have empty slots anymore. You should clear some slots, empty some space for new sequences. And if you can't back up to your computer, you should delete these sequences in order to create new ones. So in Crave it's very easy. I saved my lovely sequences on my computer and then I can do a new one. Another advantage of this is that we can exchange the sequences between each other, between Crave users. If I created a sequence, I may share it with my friends, with my followers. And again, you can do it with Moog Mother-32. It has an internal sequencer, it's the same as in Crave. You can create them from scratch here, save, but you don't have a dedicated application that helps us to save and exchange the sequences. And speaking about the process of creation of the sequences, again, if you're gonna create sequences from the front panel, you should spend some time to learn how to do it, because again, you should remember different button combinations, button plus knob combinations, and so on and so forth. And again, I know some people who had difficulties with this. I don't say it's impossible, but it's not easy. I can say this for sure. And if you face the problems with sequences creation, again, if you have Crave, you may use this application that reminds just a regular digital audio workstation, where you have a piano roll, notes, and so on and so forth. So it's much more intuitive in comparison with doing this from the front panel. However, I like the process of making the sequences from the front panel. It's quite interesting because you think differently in comparison with digital audio workstation. And thanks for this, you may get some unexpected results. Also, what we have here, polychain settings and update. And again, these two devices are different in terms of how to update the firmware. Before shooting this video, I've updated the firmware of Mother-32 to firmware 2.0. And the process of this update is the following. You should download a zip file where you have C6 files, and then you should install a special application that let you work with these C6 files. Then you connect Midi to Mother-32, and using this application, by dropping files there and transferring to Mother-32, you update the firmware. I'm not gonna say that this process is difficult, but I know some people who are not good users of computer, and even some simple tasks may make some problems for them. For example, I knew some people who had problems with loading or saving sequences to Crave. Moreover, again, if you don't have an audio interface with Midi out, you can do this firmware update. Moog suggests you to use USB to Midi connector, but again, there is an opportunity that you don't have one. So if you are forced to buy this connector, your firmware update is gonna be delayed. And Behringer Crave has much more easier process of firmware update. How it works? I just connect Crave via USB to my computer, open the application, go to update page, then push update, and that's all. Everything is done automatically. I'm sure this difference is not very crucial, but again, Crave has some advantage over Moog Mother-32. Next difference is the following. You know that both of them have accent function inside the sequencer, but in Mother-32 you have this accent only inside the sequencer, while in Crave you may get this accent from your keyboard. I'm gonna play soft and hard. And the accent influences this knob, the opening of the filter with the envelope and the volume. And this gives me some expression if I'm playing from the keyboard. Without the accent. With it. And let's try it with Mother-32. You see, it doesn't matter which velocity I'm sending to Mother-32, the sound is the same. And again, using the application, you may set this threshold, which velocities are gonna give this accent and which are not. So here's this threshold. Velocities below 96 gonna play the regular notes, and the velocities above this threshold gonna give the accent. Next difference is that Crave has not only a sequencer, but it also has an arpeggiator. Let's turn it on and play some notes. we can hold it, and it has 8 modes: up, down, several octaves, and so on and so forth. And most of you may know that Mother-32 doesn't have an arpeggiator. However, Mother-32 has some improvements after the latest firmware in terms of sequence and tempo. Now the sequence can play back your sequence not only forward, like this, but also backward. You see? Then forward and backward and random. I like random most of all because this can give you a lot of happy accidents and unexpected results. Crave has only forward and backward playback. At least at the moment I'm shooting this video. Maybe some future updates gonna add different directions, or maybe some new features, and so on and so forth. Also, Mother-32 has different divisions for tempo. It can sync the tempo not only with straight notes, but also with triplets and dotted notes. Crave doesn't have this feature. Another difference, and it's quite obvious, that Crave has a dedicated sustain knob, while Mother-32 doesn't have it. And for me it's a very important difference, because if you have a knob that can set the level of sustain, you may create much more dynamic sound than if it is all the way up, like in Moog 32. Let me show you. I have a sequence. And I like the punch that gives the decay. But if I turn sustain on, you see the sound is sort of flat. It doesn't have this spike I had with the decay. While in Crave you can both have a sustain and have this spike I was talking about here. Let's hear it. Here's my spike, and here's, let's say, barrier of the notes. And for me it's quite an important thing to create dynamic parts and sequences. However, Crave has some, let's say, issue with this sustain function. What I mean? Here's my page. I have a pulse shape. Let's put it in the middle. No modulation. Filter is quite closed. Modulation with the envelope. Let's turn off the sustain for some time. And let's add some modulation to pulse width with the envelope. Everything is fine at the moment, but when I turn sustain on, do you hear these clicks when I'm using pulse? We're not gonna hear it with the saw shape. Some of you might think that it's okay because the modulation narrows the width so big that it generates the clicks. But no, the modulation is not that deep to generate these clicks that may appear on the very edge of the pulse width. Let's hear it again. I always get these clicks if I have my pulse width in this position a bit more right from the middle and some modulation. And I really don't like it. I can't believe this happens. And by the way, this happens only if sustain is on. Without the sustain, everything is clean. I don't know whether all Craves have it. Maybe it's only my unit. Maybe it's some problem or issue. But anyway, I found a special thing on my Crave. And Moog Mother-32 gives a clean sound without these clicks that you hear on Crave. Let's hear it. Pulse. A bit of modulation. with the envelope. And then I turn on the sustain. Move pulse width on quite the same position as on Crave. And you hear there are no these disgusting clicks. And I think this is a great disadvantage of Behringer Crave in terms of sound. Mother-32 doesn't have any issues with the sound, and Crave has at least one. Another difference between the two is the patch panel. I mean, ins and outs are the same on Crave and Mother-32, but their position on the synth is different. And to my taste, Crave has a much more logical way of putting these ins and outs on the synth. What I mean, all ins are on the left side and all outs are on the right side. While on Mother-32, everything is quite mixed with each other, ins, outs, and it demands a bit more time to get used to this patch panel in comparison to this one. Again, it's not too crucial, but still it's the difference. The next point goes to Mother-32, not for Crave, because Mother-32 can be mounted into a Eurorack case. You can disconnect this front panel from the box and mount it into your case. And I can't understand why Crave doesn't have this opportunity. I mean, most of the Behringer semi-modular synths, like MS-20, like Neutron, like Model D or Pro 1, though they're not that modular, but anyway they have Eurorack connectors. And even they can be mounted into a Eurorack case, while Crave is definitely a semi-modular synth. And I guess there are some people who could be glad if the Crave could be mounted into the Eurorack cases. And again, this difference is not very crucial, but I had to mention it. Next thing is quite subjective. I mean the building qualities of the synth. Both of them has a great quality of knobs, buttons, connectors. But to my hands, Mother-32 is much more pleasant with these knobs, rubber buttons, because when I push them, there's no click, while these buttons are quite clicky. Mother-32 has quite a different feel of how the jacks are connected. I can't demonstrate you on this video, but you need a bit more effort to push it down in comparison to Mother-32. It's very light and easy here. Another thing I should mention is the manual. Look how great is the manual by Moog. With the pictures, with all the details, some history, some patch ideas, empty patches. It's quite pleasant to have it in my hands. Crave doesn't have a manual inside the box. I'm not very sensitive about the printed versions of manuals, but I wish Behringer Crave had something close to Moog manual, even if it was a virtual one, a PDF file. But what we have, here's the product page of the Behringer Crave on the official website. Here are some images, applications, firmwares, and so on. And documentations. Everything Behringer offers is just a quick start guide, all languages. And as you see, this is far from what Moog suggests. They have a beautiful manual, while Crave has just a quick start guide. A couple of months ago, I was wondering what these two holes are meant for, and I didn't find the answer in the manual. Nor the information is how to set the screws inside it. So I found a solution by myself, by turning these left, right, and so on and so forth, and find an answer myself. I spent a lot of time to get to know these two holes. While Moog Mother-32 has a great manual, and they have dedicated pages where the process of calibration is described. Again, maybe manual is not very crucial difference between the two, but for me this printed thing is a good point. And the last difference, and it's quite obvious for all of you, I'm sure, is the price of the two devices. Let's see the price for Moog Mother-32, and it's 600 euros. Let's see the price for Crave, it's 160. So Crave is more than 3 times cheaper than Moog Mother-32. And if you have 600 euros to spend on a synth, you may choose to have Moog Mother-32 or 3 units of Behringer Crave and connect them, for example, as a polychain with 3 voice analog synth, Or you may use it as a monosynth, but as a big semi-modular synth with 3 sequences, 3 arpeggios, and so on and so forth. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a worshipper of Behringer or Moog or any other brand. I'm trying to be objective here. In this video I showed you these objective differences between the two synths, but I'm not gonna suggest you what to choose, this one or this one. It's all up to you. Maybe you just like Moog because it's Moog, and you don't need any comparisons, you just want Moog. Okay, it's your choice, you're welcome. And if you need some objective advantages like USB port, Midi, Arpeggio, and so on and so forth, all the things I mentioned in this video, and if the difference between 600 euros and 160 means something to you, you should choose Crave. Or you may choose my way. I have both of them, Crave and Mother-32, and if I ever should sell one of them, for me it's quite a hard question, which is gonna stay with me and which of them is gonna be sold. However, at the moment I'm not gonna sell anything. And at the beginning of this video I mentioned that I made patches and sequences for Crave, I made patches for Moog Mother-32, there are also free patches for both of them. You may find all the information in the links in the description or in the very first comment to this video. So if you are already an owner of Mother-32 or Crave, you may like my work. And if you like it, get the patches and use it in your production, in your music, in your jams, and so on. Okay, that's all for today. I hope this video was helpful for you. Maybe at the moment you are choosing which of them to buy, and my video helped you to make the decision. Let me know what you think, leave your comments. Maybe there are some differences that I didn't mention or didn't find. Let me know about these points. Okay, see you in next videos and goodbye guys.